warm welcome to the Horse of the Year Board. Lovely to have you with us. Also to Anita from Hastings City Business Association. Also to our media. It's fabulous to have media in the chamber today to record our stories in a very positive light because we're doing so many amazing things. And can I also welcome, please, David. David is very passionate about the Lowe's Pit and making sure we do that well. So I think I've covered everybody, but it's just wonderful to be in level one, that we can be back here, be together, sit together, wipe our hands together, and get on with a really good agenda items today. So very warm welcome to you all. Could we please start this afternoon's meeting with a karakia, and could I invite Councillor Baden Barber to take that karakia for us today. E tū.
Kia ora tātou, kei te tautoko ngā mihi kua mihia ki o tātou manuhiri. Nā mea kua harama nei te whakarongo ki ngā kōrero tēnei rā. Mihi ana ki ngā mate, kua nui ngā mate, te taku anti tērā, kua hinga ina nahi rā. Nō reira, e mihi ana ki a rātou haere atu rā. O tira rātou ki a rātou tātou ki a tātou huri no tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. E pātoa matu nui terai, tēnei mātou, te kaunihero here taunga, e mihi ana ki a koe, i o manaakitanga kua tau mai nei ki rungi ki a tātou. Whina tia mai a tātou katoa i tēnei hui, me ngā kaupapa kei mui a tātou, kia tutuki pai a tātou e rā kaupapa katoa. Nō reira, tiaki nā mai nei kaunihera, kai kaunihera, e tiaki nei tō tātou nei rohe o here taunga whānui. Nō reira tēnei tā mātou ino ki a koe e pā māhau e whakamana i runga tingo tapu o hiukaraiti tō mātou kai whakaora. Āmene. Kia ora.
Kia ora, H. Just before we move into the formal part of our agenda, I wish to take the opportunity. The last time we came together formally, we were coming by Zoom from our homes. Today we come together, and we will sing Tu Te Mai afterwards, because we have, with our community, have been on an enormous journey with our country and with the world. And today we can be incredibly proud to be a small country in the rest of the world who has fought this virus and the first country to come out of the coronavirus. And it has taken the leadership of our Prime Minister and Cabinet. It has taken the leadership of all of you. As leaders of our community, it has taken the leadership of our Chief Executive and our staff to help our community in Hastings recover from this significant world pandemic. And I know, because I have two daughters living in the States and living in Canada, how far away they are from this day. So this day is an incredible celebration of people's togetherness, people's respect and people's love, of fighting this pandemic, of coming together to make sure people were fed and cared for and loved through a very challenging time. So I want to publicly acknowledge everybody and the contribution that you as leaders made, as our staff made, and as our community made for us getting to the place we are today. It is an enormous achievement. Ngā mihi nui. Apologies and leave of absence. No apologies. Do we have any leave of absence? Thank you. Sorry. Oh, I see I've got Councillor Sholland popped up.
Thank you, Your Worship. Leave of absence, please, for July 24th.
Thank you. Any others? Thank you. I move from the chair that they be accepted. Seconded, Councillor Dixon. All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Seal of register sitting loud and proud on the table in front there. Any conflict of interest? Councillors, could you address them as we move through the agenda today? Confirmation of minutes. Thank you, Councillor Watkins. Seconded, Councillor Kerr. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That is carried. Now, item number 6, a very warm welcome to our Horse of the Year team. Great to have you with us. Great to read your report. And what a very, very successful event, March event. And to note that you're one of the largest events in New Zealand to carry on before, or just to stop at the time we went into lockdown. So congratulations to you all, as a very warm welcome, and thank you for your report. We look forward to, so today, councillors, we are receiving the report for the March show, and certainly invite Chairman Mr Tim Aitken to share the report with you today. Welcome, Tim.
Get the right one. Thank you, Madam, Your Worship, sorry, for your kind words, and I feel quite privileged that we're actually here, probably your first presenter since COVID, and we're all in the same chambers. And you're slightly slow at Central Hawke's Bay. We met last week in chambers with a full council, so and it did make a big difference being able to actually see people face to face and be able to talk to them. So look, thank you very much for having us here, and taking the time to talk to us and present us the Horse of the Year show. And I just, while I'm here, we have got two board members here, and I do apologise. We've got Vicky Glynn on my left. She's been with us since 2015. And Vicky, do you want to quick what your roles are, very quickly?
Oh, I have multiple different roles in the equestrian world, and for Horse of the Year, my main focus is on looking after trying to get our sponsors and everybody and keep things on board. My roles are also with Equestrian Sports New Zealand, who I represent on the board of Horse of the Year, one of your other shareholders. And I'm the Secretary General for Equestrian Sports New Zealand, which means that I deal with most of the international matters, the international body, the FEI, and I'm also on the FEI's Audit and Compliance Committee, so I have an international role as well.
And we've got Trevor Pearce. He's from Show Jumping Hawke's Bay.
Yeah, good afternoon, and thank you for having us here. I went to a school called Mahora a few years ago when I was a young fella, and I spent a lot of my time working on Highway 50 and for the Nelson Brothers, right, I've been riding since I was 14 or 15. I'm still competing. I've got family competing, and I guess you could say the equestrian sport's in my blood. We have business interests in Hawke's Bay, we being myself and my wife. I think it's a great area, and we're very keen to be associated with the show.
Will Moffat makes an apology not being here. He's actually got an exam at Otago today, so he's zooming in on an exam, and Richard Sunderland's in the South Island, and James Nelson had a meeting today he had to attend. And we all know Craig Waterhouse, I think, who's been consulting us and is on the board, not actually a board member, but a consultant for us coming forward. Thank you, Craig. So just want to, I know there's a few new council members, and just want to have a quick presentation of the history of Horse of the Year. It started in 1953 down in Dannyburg from a guy called Duncan Holden. Now, the Holden family live in O'Markbury. Two of them, their grandsons live in Havelock North and that now. And the first show was with 29 riders. Since then, it's gone from, it's been all over New Zealand, and it came into Hawke's Bay in 1999. So it arrived in Hawke's Bay in 1999, and we got to give credit to the Show Jumping Hawke's Bay, who did that with Kevin Hansen. And Kevin Hansen ran it for a long time, successfully, and he grew the event. And in 2000, well, what year it was, I can't remember, Sophie? 2012, it became Horse of the Year, which is that was when Hastings District Council, Equestrian Sports New Zealand and Show Jumping Hawke's Bay all bought a 1/3 share, and that was actually around to get it out of trouble when it had a bad financial year. Since then, it's been growing, and in 2015, we went with a company called SMC, which is an Auckland company. They had a 5-year contract with a 5-year renewal. They've grown the show even more since then. Their first year wasn't that successful because they actually they had to start from scratch basically, so that was pretty good. But we've gone from what was a show of 53 or 29 people to now having well over 1,400 people riding at the show. And you'll see that in a minute. Just talk about the highlights of the show this year. We had 220 trade sites at the show. The tickets were much better. We had a lot more people coming in the gate until Friday, and that COVID started to come in. And then we had a storm in the Cook Strait, and a lot of people wanted to get out from the riders, so you could probably, if you're at the showgrounds on the Saturday, Sunday, you'd have noticed a lot of the trucks left early. But that didn't make a lot of effect on us. We had superstars, as you see there. We had Blythe Tate, Jock Padgett, Clark Johnson and Maddie Crowe all competing, and I think that was well received. And I think they presented at the Land Rover tent and a few other things like that, and they gave us a lot of coverage in the media. We got a lot of coverage through the media, TV1 and everyone, which was great. So to come out of that, we have an approximate surplus of $114,000 as our surplus for the year. That is on what I consider, that is actually a fantastic result, and we're very happy about that. It's come a long way, and look, all credit to SMC and everyone else that's involved. Just to talk about SMC, as you're well aware, we've bought the show in-house. Part of the contract was that we could either renew the contract or we had to bring it in-house. So we've brought it in-house. A couple of the main reasons we've done that is there was a disconnect between the volunteers and a company that is running an event that is focused on income, and we all get that, you know. Companies want to make money, but we've got over 500 volunteers that come into this show, including our board members, that spend a lot of time and effort for free. They don't get paid, they don't get their expenses paid, and that was starting to create quite a bit of disconnect. And the other thing was that we felt too that we wanted, under the old contract, we couldn't actually invest back into the show. So we've been going along for the last 5 years under that contract where there's no back investment into the event. There's no investment into the infrastructure. We couldn't do that. So we're now looking as a board, we've gone out and we've extensively had consultation with various people and done a lot of work on it. And we want to now go forward and have a plan. So currently we can run till 2027. So we've got another 7 years to go. That's under the contract with Equestrian Sports New Zealand. There was a 15-year contract. I would like to go out to 2035, which is another 15 years. And by doing that, then we can start looking at building a picture, building as, you know, what is the show going to look like? What can we look like? And I don't know whether many know anything like Spruce Meadows and Aachen. Aachen's a show in Germany, which is probably about equivalent event. I think we said 990 horses go to that. The facilities there are fantastic, and you know, and I think that's the board's dream, is to start looking at the facilities that, the showgrounds are fantastic, but they're not fit for purpose. There's a lot of the stabling and various buildings just not up to scratch. And we're bringing in around, $200,000-300,000 worth of infrastructure onto those grounds every year. So one of the things we'd like to do going forward, and if we can do that, is to actually look at, if we're bringing that infrastructure, and maybe with an agreement with Showjump AMP and Hastings District Council to go, instead of bringing it in, let's build that infrastructure, and we will then pay the equivalent back into the grounds for that infrastructure while we're actually on the grounds, and just grow those grounds. So there's a lot of work still to go around that, but those are some of the things we're looking at, and also looking at what is the gold-plated show? What can we do? And that's where I want to work with Hastings District Council as well. You're our third shareholder. And what do you actually want from this show, even more than what we've got now? What are some of the things that you want? Yes, more international visitors, more international exposure, or is it just domestic? Right now with COVID, it's domestic visitors. How can we grow that to get your domestic people to turn up and highlight Hastings Council, Hastings District? And some of the things is, I don't know, some of you have seen the cross-country course where you've seen some of the cross-country jumps that were, wineries, for example, and I'm thinking we can do more jumps that when the TV cameras are there, we'll be able to actually see that it is actually Hawke's Bay. This is Hastings. Gannets, for example. Can we not have the Gannet tractors there and actually use them as one of the jumps? Just little things like that. And as you see in the next one, the media highlights, we've been getting coverage from TVNs in New Zealand and all that, but what I really want to talk about is this year was the first year we did Sky Sport, the next platform. It's 61,000 unique views on there. That's a lot of people, and the average was 17 minutes. It's not like they're just clicking on for a couple of minutes and clicking off. They're actually watching what was going on. And I don't need to go through it, but they're coming from New Zealand, United States, Australia, United Kingdom and Canada. There's quite a breakdown. Most of those are actually females. It's not males. And, there's potential there to for our sponsors and for Hastings to actually start really having this as a unique show. Other things we're talking about, and I briefly touched on it, sourcing local business is another reason. And there we go, 0.72 of $1 million is what we actually bring into the grounds, actually is a direct cost that comes back into Hawke's Bay. That's infrastructure hire, people that we employ here. Sophie, for example, we employ her, she's a local, and I should introduce Sophie, I forgot, I apologise. She's our new show manager, appointed last week, but she has actually been involved with the show now for 7 years in various roles, and one of the most passionate people I've come across for this event. Talked about domestic tourism and how we're going to try and grow that, especially with COVID today. When we believe we won't be getting international coming in this coming event because I think the borders are still going to be closed, maybe Australia, but we'll see where that goes. And that recognition, the increased branding. How can we increase brand for Hastings? How can we increase the branding for actually showing this is the iconic show hosted by Hastings in Hawke's Bay? A couple other things we want to do is looking at giving back to the community. And I've run this past Her Worship and Tanya to talk about having a rates day. All ratepayers in Hastings have a free day. We're talking Wednesday. We will need to talk to Hastings Council about how that works and how we can get those tickets out there to them. Also, things like school programs. Sophie's come up with, hobby horses, getting the schools coming in and making hobby horses and doing jumps, and then actually having a jumping competition of a hobby horse. And if you don't know what a hobby horse is, one of those horses that you put between your legs and it's got the horse's head and the kids gallop around, and I'm not going to do it. But overseas, it's actually a growing trend of people that can't afford horses doing it. So we're thinking, bringing the kids in, the schools in, and just a bit of fun and a bit of entertainment for them and getting them involved. The other thing we're talking, that we do is the clubs and fundraisers. You know, $70,000 is clubs and fundraisers that turn up. You know, Max Sport, Elwood Park Partnership, Greendale and Tamatea Scouts Club and Flaxmere College. They all come up and do work with us and we pay them. So it's a great fundraiser. We have them, and also the local equestrian sports there, groups. They all come and help, and there's another $44,000 from our show that we directly pay them to come and help us. So it's not just the show. We are actually giving back to a lot of other people. As I touched on too, the venue, it's a fantastic venue. You know, it's probably it's the best place in New Zealand to do this event. It's 100 acres. We are at capacity. We cannot fill it anymore. Camping's full. We cannot bring any more stabling in for the 1,700 plus horses that we have. We are looking at, you know, we bring in 220 tent stables. That's costing us around $40,000-$50,000 a year just to bring those in. So that's part of how can we use that money to actually develop the stables, and not just stables, but multi-purpose buildings that we can use and other people's use during the year. So that's pretty much there. And more than questions now, and we're going to have a few photos up there of just what the show is. It's not just dressage, it's multidiscipline. And I think the youngest rider last year was 4, and the oldest was 78 or 80? 70.
Mirren, 80s. We better be careful.
Yeah, I better not say her age. But, you know, there's a very, very diverse range. And one of the things that always blows me away at this event is that when I go there and walk around and talk to people, I talk to people from Southland, I talk to people from all over New Zealand that have saved with their daughter or their son just to come to this event. That is their whole, not even just riding, they just want to come to be part of it, and then they actually want to compete in it one day. It's not about winning it, they just want to come to Horse of the Year. So it is the most iconic event in New Zealand for horses, but it's actually, we're talking about it before, it's probably the biggest equestrian event of its kind in the Southern Hemisphere, definitely, but actually probably we're looking at it, talked about Aachen, that's the next closest event to us, and they're only 990 horses, but big in Germany, they have a lot more walk-through people that actually come and visit it. So there's thousands of people go there. So it is an event, and I think, you know, we want to grow it, we want to make it bigger, and I think this is the absolute time that we can actually develop the showgrounds and make it a world-class facility to carry on here in Hastings.
Thank you.
Anything I missed?
Thanks.
No?
Awesome. Thank you very much, Tim. Thank you to the board. And as you said, it's an outstanding event for our city, for Hastings. And we just, we go down there and just can't believe that this big event just pops in for a week and then pops out. And we've got people camping and horses everywhere and great fun happening all around. So thank you very much. Right, so I've got to start off with Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Tim. One of the concerns raised has been that this is an elite sport. Can you talk to me about how local boys and girls on their little ponies can be involved and be part of this event?
It is seen as elite as probably at the top end, but it's not. How do I put it? You know, we've got the games, for example. There's kids there right at the games. They come from pretty average Kiwi backgrounds. They don't have a lot of money, but they save and scrimp and do it just to get to the event. I hear a lot of there's girls out there that I hear that get up in the morning at 5 o'clock in the morning, ride their ponies and have a job and then go to school and then come back and ride their ponies. I think less than 20% of the people that actually come to that event are wealthy. I think a lot of people will spend a lot of time in making the effort. And I was talking to a young family from Invercargill this year that the daughter, she would have been 7 or 8, and they had spent all summer doing extra jobs just to be able to get to the Horse of the Year. That was their dream. I hear people saying, you know, they save 2 or 3 years just to be able to come. And that's not to ride, that's just to come and be there. So yes, it does, sometimes when you look on the outside that it is elitist, but not all of them are. You know, there's a very diverse range of people that turn up, and you see that all the time, to borrowed saddles, borrowed horse floats, to, you know, the top riders that get, I don't know how much they get paid to ride people's horses.
Thank you.
And also just that the actual volunteers as well, that very diverse range of people that come and do that. And that's one of the things we want to do this year is to look at more in Hawke's Bay about, for the security, for example, bringing in people in to do the security, not bringing them in down from Auckland, just using Hawke's Bay security and trying to grow that, and actually talking to the EIT, for example, how can we use some of these students to come onto the grounds and actually get first-hand experience in event management?
Thanks, thank you. Councillor Watkins.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, Tim and members of the board. Look, it is a fantastic event and great to see the word Hastings going to get a new emphasis attached to this event. This is absolutely critical. Could I just make an observation? This is my own view, is that there is a disconnect between the showgrounds and the city. Now, a few years ago, we had a parade at Horse of Year time. We had a parade through the city, and there were thousands flocked into the CBD, local people, because it was unique, it was brilliant. And I just wonder in the forward thinking, whether there might be opportunities again to just connect, in the central city with all those people, and hopefully you'll get the support at the showgrounds as the event unfolds. My second comment is, this report you've produced, I think, is probably one of the best I've read, one of the most comprehensive. Congratulations for that. A lot of it relates to the enormous amount of work that goes into media, promotion, PR. I mean, it's incredible. And now that you're bringing this in-house, I'd just like to understand the mechanisms and how you are going to sort of handle that part of the promotion of the event going forward.
Thank you for those questions. Just the parade one, yes. It's something that definitely the board has discussed, and I'll be the first one to apologise last year when the show was launched in Auckland, and we won't go into the details why and that was happened, but I was a bit horrified even that it wasn't in Hastings. So yeah, we are looking at other ways to do it, and it might be a dual launch. There might be an Auckland launch and a Hastings launch, but that's something I do want to work with, and I've talked to Sandra and Tani and others around here how we can actually connect more with the council on what you would like to see. You are a shareholder, and you're also a main sponsor, and you're our host city. So we do know that in the past we haven't been that good at it. So I'll apologise, but we are hoping to work better for that going in the future. What's the second question?
Media and the people.
Media, that's right. So yeah, just very briefly, we are looking at that. So we've broken it down into 3 sections. So we've got our event manager, we've got our logistics manager, and then we're going to have a PR and media or manager, something around that, and then we're going to have a sponsorship. So 4 very key people that are going to run it and kind of keep it quite tight, so they can talk to each other and there's not banging back and forward. And we will employ people as the year goes, but right now, with COVID and everything else and the uncertainty, we're just going to keep it very small and very tight management group. And we've got some people in mind, but we're just working through a few logistics, whether we go out and advertise those roles or we just go and knock on someone, talk to someone at the moment.
Thank you. And just to follow up on Councillor Watkins' comments, today we have the manager of the Hastings City Business Association here, was very timely actually to have your report and her with us. We also have Kevin, who is responsible for the contract. So it's about us all actually coming together to make sure, like bring sort of working party of stakeholders, because it isn't just council. There's a whole lot of people that, you know, can play a part in making sure that everyone's engaged and getting the best for all sectors. So thank you. Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Tim, for the presentation. Just a couple of questions based back in the report. On page 34, there's a comment around the Hastings extravaganza and it's being a crowd favourite. But then on page 68, there's a comment, I think, Sophie, was that you? It's got Sophie, I wasn't sure if it was Sophie.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, that the event is plainly boring and is pretty much a flop. So I just want to understand going forward, do you see the Friday night extravaganza continuing in a similar format, or is it something that is going to be canned? I'd just be really interested in that. And then secondly, just back to sponsors, I also note that there are about, well, I'm not sure what the percentage would be, 80% maybe of those major sponsors were up for renewal from here. And I'm just interested to know how you are going with the renewal of those, please.
Well, thank you for that. The Friday night extravaganza, yes, it is. I find it boring. It didn't go well. And Sophie was managing this year and she said that she was not comfortable with it and happy with it, and I don't think the board was very happy with it. To can it, I don't want to can it. I think we want to keep it, but it does need a complete revamp. And we haven't actually made that decision on what that looks like yet. There's been a bit of talk about maybe bringing in a band, for example, and having it there. But that's something we need to work through in the next couple of months. And that again is something that I'd like to even talk to council here. Is there any opportunity we can work together and any ideas you may have that we can do? So very open, but I'm going to assure you that I do not want to see the last 3 years. I think the extravaganza, me personally, I haven't been comfortable with it at all. I think it's pretty boring, pretty staid, but there's definitely ways we can improve it. One of the reasons is that in the past we haven't had a lot of money, and so you can't go out and spend a lot of money to do that Friday night because you've got to attract audience that you're actually not charging for them to come in. So it's sort of a bit of a balancing act, and so we'll work on that. Sponsors, yes, a few of them have fallen out and rolled over because, don't forget, everyone knew that it was 5 years up, and so there was a few things. We are talking to Land Rover, the naming sponsors, tomorrow. I'm very confident that they are on board still. Most sponsors we've talked to that have fallen out and rolling over are still coming on board. We haven't had anyone saying no. We've actually had, most of the feedback I've received is very, very positive about bringing it back in-house and bringing it back to Hawke's Bay. And that's again, and that's that disconnect between that misperception that a lot of the money was going up to Auckland and sponsors weren't giving it to us because of that perception, I mean. So I think it's very positive, and I'm looking forward to going up and actually having more sponsorship going forward. And we've got Sophie's got a whole lot of ideas about how we can actually have sponsors that actually can see where their money goes, come in there and they can sponsor a class, for example, and actually go and present at the class and everything. So I'm pretty confident, but COVID again is an issue, and there's a lot of uncertainty out there. So we are taking a fairly cautious approach as a board at the moment about what we're going to spend our money on. So we're going to look at probably in September, we'll have another serious look at just where we're at and where that show's looking like before we really start making big decisions on some of those parts of the show that actually cost us money that we don't get any money back from. So we'll make a decision whether we run with them or not then. But also the other thing I didn't touch on, and it was in the presentation, that right now I think we've only been out a couple of weeks now, and about our trade, 75% have already come back and wanting, they're all back. And there's 3, I think, from Australia that are saying, well, we're not too sure whether we can come, but we want to come back. So that's really positive too. They're really wanting to come back. So it's So there's no negativity so far.
Just a quick follow-up to that, because you mentioned Land Rover. At what level will you be pitching them at, just based on where you perceive or think that Hastings is a sponsor,
Yep.
and where they two sit, because there is a little bit of conflicting messaging there to really who is the lead.
Currently, Land Rover is the naming sponsor, and so one of the things, and we're having a talk to Land Rover tomorrow, is that we need to determine a couple of issues, and I don't want to get into that here. But I'm just wondering whether they're comfortable that we say Land Rover's hosted by Hastings. That would be the branding, something like that.
Proposal and negotiations that needs to happen
Yeah.
with this organisation and with the Horse of the Year. I think that's...
Before we go out there, we need
Yeah.
to negotiate that. So for money-wise, I'm not prepared to say it while we've got media in here.
Yes.
to talk to you around that.
No, I wasn't
No,
referring
thank
to
you.
No.
So yeah, definitely, we, as a board, we really understand the fact that actually Hastings is our main sponsor. They're our main people, they're the biggest ones, and we, you know, as I said earlier, we haven't looked after you well enough going forward, and we intend to change that from today, or even when we came in-house.
Thank you. Councillor O'Keefe?
Kia ora, Tim. Sophie, thank you for coming in. Just a couple of questions. One is, I've been to most of them, had a good time. Spoke a couple of times. Right from day dot, I've pleaded and echoed these sentiments. It's not brown enough for my liking. How do we, in that, Councillor Kerr mentioned elitism, and I'd like to take that a step further. How do you incorporate the flaxmeers of this world into the Horse of the Year? Because if you're going to call it Hastings, the brand Hastings, that's us. Hastings is Flaxmere. It's Lipscomb Crescent. It's Sefton Street. How are you going to, and I realise you have fiscal responsibility. You've got to you got to pay the bills. I was disturbed that at one point some protestations were made, and all of a sudden a Flaxmere school pops up in the local newspaper. So how you, like you had Kahurangi there one year, this gone year, they nowhere to be seen. Now one of the most magnificent cultural troops in the world. They're a global phenomenon, and yet they were non-existent on that day. They bring that brown ambience, and when they come, their families want to follow them. So, and I've said this to Deputy Mayor at the time, Cynthia Bowers. How are you going to brown this up? For me, it's not brown enough. And if it's not brown enough, it's not a true reflection of Hastings. I mean, we want this to fly. We do. And one other sore point, I viewed some video footage. I don't quite know where I saw it, but if I didn't know, I wouldn't have known it was in Hastings. It just said Horse of the Year, and if you were an outsider looking in, you'd be wondering, now, where was it? So I totally agree with you. You haven't honoured fully your obligations to Hastings, and I think we've come out of lockdown, and we're looking for everything to go up another level. So my first question, how are you going to brown it up? How are you going to incorporate Māoridom in all their extravagance into your curriculum of activities?
Thank you, Councillor. That's probably a question that the whole of New Zealand asks all the time, and I know even in Central Hawke's asked that question. Just to answer the question around the schools, I was actually very embarrassed. Vicky and I were here with her worship, and she mentioned that there was a couple of schools wanting to walk around the grounds to have a look at it. I was absolutely horrified, and I'll apologise for that. And yes, you would have seen those photos that they came in because I rang them and managed to get hold of them and say, look, come in. The school program is free. All schools are allowed to come into the grounds for free. We do not charge schools if they want to come. And that's been going for a number of years. We need to push. No, obviously not. So we need to push that better. The ratepayers to turn up, yes, that's part of trying to get other people that cannot afford to come And we know that there's people out there that cannot pay the $10 or the $20 gate fee to come in. So that's one of the things on the Wednesday, if we do that, try and get it in. To get Flaxmere, and that's part of our strategy, is actually to try and get more local people to, I'm going to say infrastructure to come in. It's not infrastructure from Flaxmere, but volunteers and that come in. How can we get them to come in? Can we get them to do the security guards, for example, or the road, the roads, and do all the management of the road traffic maintenance? Yeah. But let me finish. Yeah, no, I'm not talking about that. But I'm just talking about bringing the staff in that we require. There's going to be more from Hawke's Bay, Hastings. As for the cultural group, yes, we did have them one year. The next year they didn't come out because it was raining, and they left us in a hole. So that was why they didn't come the second year. And then the next year it was a bit, and let's be honest, they said it's too cold, too wet, and it was cold and wet, and they didn't want to perform. But we are looking at that, and that I'd like to talk to you about how that maybe that's part of the Friday night and how we can do more of that. So yes, yeah, absolutely, and that's part of where we're coming from. That's why I said to you, with Hastings, how can we work together?
I'm just conscious of time, Tim, and I've got a couple more questions from councillors. I've got Councillor Barber and Councillor Corbyn, and that's probably, we need to move on. Thank you.
Yeah, kia ora. Thanks, Tim, for the presentation. I'm looking at and you've already mentioned it, around the sponsors, looking at the sponsor report on page 71, clearly shows that Hastings District Council is by far the highest monetary sponsor, and I'm pretty sure we're doing some other stuff in kind as well, but yeah, I'm keen to see us in that name somewhere. I think if we're not in the name, we're just not anywhere. And so you're negotiating naming with Rover at the moment. I think you need to be having a conversation. Otherwise, they should be sponsoring $160,000 a year. For I wouldn't have a worry with that. But there is quite a big gap, and I just think we need more from what we're getting in the naming, because at the end of the day, that's what goes out the media, that's what goes out everywhere. Hastings needs to be up in lights.
And look, I agree with that, and one of my thoughts was that it could be hosted by Hastings or something like that. That's something I need to talk to you guys. I can't just go and do that. I need to talk to council, and I need to talk to Land Rover as well. But we've already highlighted the fact that we need to bring Hastings into it more often. And just going back to Keith's one around how to make it all Hastings, I want to bring more jumps in that iconic Hawke's Bay Hastings. A Gannet, for example, that we see out there, or something like that, that every time we get the 61,000 people that are actually viewing it on TV, they will see it's iconic Hastings. Like we've had Burley in the past, and that's been great to get the sponsorship from Land Rover, but now we need to shift it into Hastings. How can we make that an iconic, not just in the cross country, but also in the show jumping?
Thank you. Councillor Corbyn.
Thank you. There's a lot of moving parts with this event, and as we've seen today, a lot of people to keep happy. I'm wondering from the horse community, what makes the show a success? If you go back to 1953 with 29 competitors, they wanted to keep going. So from the horse community, what makes it sustainable? That's the first question. And the second question is, with COVID and the border lockdown, how will that impact on the event, its sustainability and cost structure?
Okay, so going back to the people that the riders, it is absolutely, my daughter, for example, her passion since she was 5 was to win at Hoy. Not to compete, she's very competitive, but a lot of other riders, it's just to compete at Hoy. It is the event in New Zealand to come to, and if you win a title class, that is it. That's the pinnacle for New Zealand in most of the events. And I think, Vicky, you probably agree with that, and Trevor, that Hoi is it's the iconic event. Everyone all year round, because you've got to qualify for a lot of Hoi, you can't just come. They go to all these shows, and you see on Facebook all the time, yay, I've actually qualified to go to Hoi. I'm going to Hoi. Who's coming with me? And it's talked about all year round. Riders are wanting and organising to get to Hoi from the day Hoi stops, or even before Hoi stops that year. So it is that iconic event. It is the one to win. As for COVID, the board has had a lot of conversation around COVID. Going to level 1 now, I think, is made it a lot simpler, but we're still very conscious that we could have a reinfection back in New Zealand. We could go back up to level 2 or 3. But I think at this stage, we're absolutely going to be running the event in March. Without the main line is the international. We won't have the international judges and some of the international trade people there as well, and some of the riders, just because of the way the border's locked down. So we've done that budget. We've actually got 2 budgets running next door to each other, pretty much status quo, run the event as it is, and we've got a second one that if COVID's sitting there, then this is what we're going to have to do. Okay, so we're very much there, and look, it really does hinge on the support of our shareholders as well as Land Rover and people, how we go forward.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much for your report today, and thank you to the board and to Sophie for coming in. Horse of the Year is one of our biggest events in Hastings, and today we have heard opportunities to grow our partnership and look at other ways in which we can work in closer together and with our relationship. So this has been a very, very helpful discussion for us. Thank you for a report. It's about us maximising the opportunities for our community, and we've heard some good opportunities today. So we look forward to our staff and working with you and the board to find some more opportunities to progress, to make sure that we're maximising all of those things we heard today about bringing the community to the event. So thank you to you all. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, Wendy. Oh, sorry. Oh, well, I did say the last 2 actually, councillors. Yeah, I'm just conscious that we've had now just nearly an hour.
May I move the recommendations that we received?
Thank you very much, Wendy. Second by Councillor Nixon. Thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Good, thank you. Item number 7, welcome Anita. And this is our Urban Centres Recovery Fund. So, Mr. Allen, would you like to add anything to your paper?
Through your worship, no, I think the paper's reasonably self-explanatory. I think the key message in here is that really time is of the essence to get this up and running, and the plans established and the programs in place. So,
thank you. And we do have Anita with us today. Anita, would you like to say anything at this point, representing our city businesses?
Sorry, may I interrupt? We're live streaming this meeting, so would you mind going up to the podium? Thank you.
Oh, we'd love to see you at the podium. Yes, yeah.
Your worship, councillors, it's a great opportunity for the Hastings City Business District there to get some extra funding. I just wanted to reiterate what Bruce said there, was that timing is of the essence. A recovery is only a recovery when the fund is used during that time, and small business and medium business enterprises are suffering now. So every day that we wait is a day where it becomes less of a recovery and more of a knee-jerk reaction later. So if obviously we're working behind the scenes now quietly to make sure that we can deliver as quickly as possible should this fund become available to us. July and August, the hardest months for retail and for hospitality, so we really need to be in recovery then.
Thank you very much, Anita. Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd be delighted to move this. The 4 councillors that are involved, I believe, are the right ones to manage and allocate these funds once the terms of reference. And like the comment was just made, time is of the essence. We can't just talk about it anymore. We actually need to put some money up for being part of the solution.
Thank you. You have a seconder? Councillor Sholem. Councillor Sholem, did you want to add anything?
Yes, please, Your Worship. Question for Mr. Allen. I see in the recommendations about the formation of a urban recovery fund board, and I support this oversight. My concern is around timing. As we've just heard from the manager of the Business Association, our business community is in desperate need now. How do we expedite this process so that it doesn't draw out as council processes can do?
Well, we've got a meeting next week, haven't we, Mr. Allen?
Through Your Worship, we have a penciled-in meeting for Thursday this week, assuming that this was approved. So we've got something in the diaries to get this underway. I think the rationale of having the delegations that are set out in the resolution as well is to ensure that the process can work quickly and we can make decisions when we need to. There's no formal process around establishing the meeting times. It's about getting the members together and making decisions as and when we need to.
Excellent. So follow on from that. Am I correct in my assumption then that applications can be heard as they are submitted rather than waiting for all to come in?
Through Your Worship, yeah, absolutely, because we have a proposal already from the Hastings City Business Association, which I know they're working up with their members. We can consider that now, acknowledging that there is a fund here that needs to go across the 3 centres, but we can certainly start making some decisions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a fund I am incredibly supportive of. It's something that our community desperately needs, all of our urban centres. So, yeah, they're very, very supportive of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Harvey.
Yeah, thank you. You stole my question. It was about the timing as well. So it's fantastic to get some clarity around that. But also just thanks for putting together what you have so far. Really appreciative that we've got this rolling incredibly quickly after some conversations only literally probably 10 days ago, fortnight ago. So fantastic. And also to everybody around this table that when we had first mooted this, there was strong support for getting in behind those CBDs and helping kick them back into action. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor O'Keefe.
Yeah, just want to thank you for all your work, Bruce. Really appreciate that. Just to let everyone around this table know that as we speak, our Flaxmere Business Association are diligently going around their business. They are well aware of this fund and they would like some of it.
Kia ora, yeah, no, I support this, but just with other funds that we've had go out, there have been central government, funding dropping left, right and centre. I just want to make sure that, there's not going to be any double up. Nothing news come out from government around supporting CBDs, whatnot. Just so we're not doubling up on our precious pūtea. Kia ora.
Not today anyway, for a small business, but only loans and things, but this is about promotions. And this is about making sure that we get people to town to enjoy our beautiful city, to be able to shop and have a cup of coffee and just feel that the city alive. So we look forward to the opportunity of seeing what our city centre and our town centres bring to us and their plans, because never before have we been in this place where we've needed to invest in looking after our city and our town centres. So this is a significant opportunity and we look forward to seeing what your plan is going to bring for our people. Thank you. I have a mover and a seconder. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Thank you for coming in today, Anita. Item number 8. And this is the welcome Mr. Brett Chapman, our Three Waters manager, and this is the Lowe's Pit and stormwater options.
Thank you, Your Worship, councillors. I'll take the report as read, and look, I do apologise for the large amount of information that was attached to that, the technical report. So well done if you managed to make your way through that. And I've tried to summarise the key elements of that report into the main report. What I will do is just elaborate on those key elements of the preferred option, taking that multi-barrier approach around stormwater management and treatment. So it's a combination of management at source, where we are looking at the source of potential contaminants from on-site properties. So we're taking a management approach to work with property owners and try and eliminate sources of contamination from on-site properties. We've been working and engaging with them over a number of years now. The second element of this is then capture and containment within the pipe network and the roadways that take stormwater runoff. And then the last element of that in the preferred option is around a vertical flow wetland, which is essentially converting Lowe's Pit into approximately 25% of that land area into a treatment device. And it's probably fair to say that there needs to be consideration of the balance of the land, that the 75% remaining, which is proposed to be filled in as well. And I probably just want to clarify that we didn't intend that its only use was going to be a park. That was just a suggestion that had come through from the technical report. So I think it's probably fair to think about the design of that 25% area, and also look at investigating a range of options for how we might best utilise that land. And there are a range of opportunities there that I think that'll come through in the design. Even there may be interest from adjoining landowners in terms of purchasing and reusing that land. So I think perhaps as a suggestion there might be a further recommendation which directs us to incorporate land utilisation, or look at the range of options as part of the detailed design. Right. Happy to take questions.
Thank you. So that is capturing the land use and in the detailed design, and we'll have a recommendation to reflect that. Councillor Nixon.
Thank you. This has been a long time coming. But what I'm interested in knowing is it still appropriate that it be included in the work schedule for 220, 221? How long is it going to take to do all the various bits, the consents, the design? This is only an outline design, it's not a final design. Have we got the timing right, or should we really be thinking about putting it in year 2 of the long-term plan?
Through your worship, we need to be moving on this now. Now it's probably fair to say that to implement engineered design within the pipe network, do the detailed design and actually construct, it's probably going to take upwards of 2 years to complete. So we need to commit funding now to enable us to work through that time frame.
So, as I understand it,
we have.
That actually needs to be spread over 2 years, based on what you're saying. Probably with more in the second part of the actual construction as against the first year that would be about to start, which is very much in the design phase.
Yes, there is the opportunity to stage both the work and the funding across 2 financial years.
Do we need to modify the recommendation?
No, I don't think so. We've got the funds set aside in next year's annual plan, and so it's, well, you know, we can only move as sort of fast as we can move, but we need a direction first. In fact, I'm happy to move the recommendations, but I'd like to capture a couple of those points that were raised this morning by councillors in terms of extra funding and detailed design and what the future land use could be for. So if we could just type those up and put them up for councillors to have a look at. Councillor Harvey, I'll just take some more questions.
Councillor no, I was just going to suggest what C was.
Yeah, we'll just put a couple. couple up. One's around funding and external funding, and one is around future land use and detailed design and what the land could be used for. Councillor Barber?
Yeah, so is the other funding sources going to come up on the screen? Huh?
Yeah, we're just going to put a couple
Oh, okay.
more recommendations up there that we've talked about this morning.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll just state that, you know, the cost of this particular development at this particular time for this city right now, you know, I think it's just come at the worst time actually. It's a legacy problem. You know, it's a whole lot of councils that haven't done their job, and we're left to pick up the bill. So, you know, if council can find some alliances with government and regional council to get this sorted out, paid to pie, you know, I think that would be the best outcome. So let's see where we get with that. But yeah, I just balk a bit at the cost of this correction.
Thank you. Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to support Councillor Barber in the need to build a partnership and seek funding from elsewhere. But more importantly, I'd like to understand where the regional councils sit with us in helping us tidy up what's already there with regard to current consents that are available and how we can work to make sure that both councils are endeavouring to finish this.
I'll ask the Chief Executive to...
yeah.
Brett, do you want to answer?
Yes, through Your Worship, thank you.
Thanks, Brett.
We have been in discussions with the Regional Council and particularly around the management and the consenting of stormwater activities in that area, and they are very supportive of the initiative that we are proposing here, and to the point that they are quite supportive in terms of funding, helping to fund the entire project. So that's part of the discussions that Chief Executive has been having with the Chief Executive and at the Regional Council. So yes, we are looking to tap into other funding initiatives, and you know, some of the initiatives and the direction that's coming out of central government means that what we're proposing here is kind of future-proofing the way forward for stormwater, not only in Lowe's Pit, but in other more sensitive areas of our stormwater networks. So we are hopeful that some sort of central government funding might be available to help drive some of those initiatives.
Just further follow-up, if I may. I'm also interested in resource consents because I understand we may issue resource consents, but they also issue resource consents.
Yes, through Your Worship. Yes, that's correct. There are a number of consents that already sit in the Mahu industrial area, and some of those discussions, you know, how they review those consents, and it may be that the regime is a consent is issued by Hastings District Council because it's then part of our stormwater network, and that fits in with a consent, a global consent that we have with the Regional Council already. So there are mechanisms to move from one consented regime to another.
Okay, so C, the Councillor requests the Chief Executive investigate a range of options for future use of the site as part of the detailed design and investigate options for other sources of external funding. Okay, Councillor Redstone. Thank you, Councillor Redstone. So this is a massive opportunity for us to look at a 60-year-old pond that community have been concerned about. And when I look back at our annual plan, there's been very little put into stormwater solutions across our district. But that's not the future, actually, because the government is going to ask us and expect us under new legislation to address these stormwater solutions. So this is something that is very much part of how we look at our long-term plans in the future, because it isn't just Lowe's Pit. There's other parts of the district where we have industrial and commercial and of stormwater that we're going to have to budget into future budgets. So this is a great result. We've got a direction. We're going to look at the land use to make sure that it could be and work with the neighbours. And this is a big opportunity to sort out this 60-year-old legacy that we have inherited. And we have David here, and I'd like to acknowledge you, David, because this has been a passion of yours since I've been a councillor, and I know that it is very important. And while we understand, you know, what it could be with the wetland, and I received your letter, we all got a copy of it, we would like you to sit down with the Tonkin Taylor engineers so we can explain what that future land use and how we manage and mitigate this contaminated stormwater for the future. So, you know, thank you for your passion bringing these issues to our table and making sure that as a council we're doing something about them. So I'll put those recommendations. Councillors, all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Coastal hazards, Clifton to Tongoyo, coastal hazard strategy, minutes from the joint committee. The representations from the people who attended that meeting, would they like to add anything to the paper, please? Councillors representing us, Councillor Dixon.
Thank you, Worship. The meeting was really a summary of what had happened in the past, just to bring new members to the committee up to date, and that's where it's at, and it's all reported there, so that's nothing new to add at this stage. So I'm happy to move the recommendations.
Thank you. I have a seconder, Councillor Redstone. Second. Any further questions or comments to the coastal hazards direction? Councillor Kerr.
Through your worship, probably the next big step for us as a joint committee of all of the councils is to look at the future funding in the consolidated fund. That's been something we've thrown around for probably the last 3 years. And we had a workshop and it looks like we may be able to get some direction at our next meeting. So I guess I can say watch this space.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So I have a mover and a seconder. No further questions or comments. I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. 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 Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Item 10, and this is the local government annual general meeting remit process. And attendees. Well, we're going to get some clarification, Mr. Cameron, on attendees for the AGM. Don't know if we just send 2 people down or 4 people down, or we know that we have 5 votes, but the paper didn't outline exactly. Yeah. Up to 4. Yes, and you still get your 5 votes. Okay, thank you. So we'll just come back to that, whether or not you need, so we've got a couple of questions. Councillor Kerr, Councillor Shodham.
I'd just like to support what I think Mr. Cameron said. In the paper it says we may have up to 4. Mm-hmm. Having attended the AGM in the past, I think a minimum of 2 because the one voting card that you have holds all 5 votes. So I'm not sure that we're just finding that out
at the moment, if we can do that. Or you can have proxy. I'll come back to you on that. But the other part of the paper here, that's 4.5, Minister of Justice Andrew Little has decided to review the Sale and Supply of Alcohol Act. So that's the remit we talked to last year. Councillor Lawson is nodding, and Councillor Barber will recall that we presented that last year at the AGM. That's a significant coup, actually, that they have decided to renew that from our remit. So I'd like officers, please, to feed back to council what that looks like. Thank you. I'd like to understand what the review looks like from the Minister of Justice. He's going to review it. Yeah, but what are they reviewing? What is the terms of reference? What part of it, of the remit, that's important to us? Is it the community voice that we ask for? And that's what's important. On the other part, Mr. Cameron's just seeking information. So we just haven't got the answers for you yet. So, so Baden and myself will be there anyway. And can I have another couple of names, please? If anyone else would like to go. Paletti wanted to go.
Your Worship, I think, I agree with Councillor Kerr that 2 is sufficient, and I'd like to nominate yourself as the Worship and Councillor Barber.
Okay. Thank you. So it's just whether we get 2 votes or 5 out of those.
Yeah.
Excellent. So we can vote for 5, get 5 votes from 2 candidates. All right. Thank you. Councillor, Deputy Mayor, you are absolutely correct. Didn't like to tell you too loudly, but that is a fact. Thank you. We just needed to check. All right. So everyone comfortable with that? I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. We've got that. That's carried. Can we put that down as an action, please, Vicky? As about the Sale of Liquor Act. Thank you. As an action. Come back to us. So now we move on to item number 11. Items under action. And we'll just run through them. And starting with Mr. Allen.
Madam Chair,
sorry, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to make a comment. I assumed it was the conference that I was wanting to go to, but I got it mixed up, so I won't be. So I'll remove my.
Okay, so we'll put you for the conference in November.
Yes, please.
Yep, awesome. You'll be going to Blenheim in a little plane. Excellent. So if we can just go through the items under action. Has Mr. Richard Grant been invited to present?
Through your Worship, we'll look at having an item on the Operations and Monitoring Committee meeting later this month.
Thank you.
With the statement of intent.
Okay. Update on Mr. Oysterkamp with the incentive policy. Is that coming before us? Due date 20th. We've just been running a bit late due to COVID 2020, March 2020.
In Mr. Oysterkamp's absence, Your Worship, yep, that's been included in the work plan. We are a bit behind with these meetings. In fact, we haven't had a strategy and policy committee meeting yet, so it'll be part of that work plan as we get to it.
No. Just before we move on to item 11, we'll just go back to item 10. There is an additional recommendation that seeks our support for HBRC and the Hauraki remit. So the mover and seconder, are you happy to include that? So this is, I'll just read it out. It's item 10A, HBC Corporate and Strategy Committee, a remit to LGNZ AGM to be tabled. This is an urgent item, LGNZ remit, Hauraki District Council, climate change, coastal hazard remit. Everyone received a copy of that? So I'll just put that again. Does the mover and seconder happy to include that? Yes. And I'll put that through again. All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. We've got an additional item. Okay, so we're back to the actions. Who's taking us through the actions, please? So we're up to May DC policy to be adopted. Bruce?
Actually, Your Worship, since my name happens to appear next to a number of things, I'll remain standing and work our way through it. So the DC policy, yes, that has been included in the annual plan for consultation, and Council will look at hearing any submissions on that and adopting that at the end of this month. Remits, I think you've just dealt with. A visit to the Cranford redevelopment site. So I'll organise that for those councillors that haven't been out there through Mr. Buck. Mr. Thu.
Thank you, officers. I'll stand side by side with my teammate here. Hey, so this item's actually got a mixture of two parts. One is Miss Stewart via Zoom gave a presentation on all the activations and stuff whilst you were all in your living rooms. The other part is we still have one or two rainbows that we've been chasing around further investment and hope to hear. There was one particularly from an NZTA around CBD enhancement stuff that we should hear very shortly, which may be able to assist with some of that CBD enhancement work. So we're just waiting to hear back on that shortly. So we continue to chase every rainbow and opportunity that comes up.
Very good. We like that. All right. Bruce, you're all good?
Yep, so the Finance 101 training we had, we've actually attempted to do this a couple of times this year and have had to move it each time. COVID and the lockdown didn't help us either. We'll look at scheduling something for that in the next month or so. Just while I'm standing, the Kiwi Rail, that incident in the fire, our costs have been invoiced to Kiwi Rail. We are in discussions with them and their insurer. And I think it's probably prudent to leave that discussion at that point while those negotiations and discussions continue behind the scenes, if that's okay, Councillor Watkins.
Well, I was preparing to stand, Your Worship.
You can still stand, Councillor Watkins.
And just on the last one, which is the Hawke's Bay Foundation undertaking fundraising, my understanding is that they have, and they plan on distributing that funding in September this year.
And I was delighted to hear that they raised $40,000. So that's amazing. Yeah. So, Councillor Watkins, you're comfortable?
If I could just ask one question of Mr. Allen, when did we first invoice Kiwi Rail?
I can't give you a specific date, but it was some weeks ago, and there was a bit of a delay in putting that together. Some of the final costs took a while to come through, but as soon as we had that, the invoice was sent through. So there's been discussions with Kiwi Rail that need to continue.
Thank you.
And my one,
Me.
which I have, oh, sorry,
Thank you. Your question's simple, almost the same issue as Councillor Watkins raised. Is there some doubt?
I think it's probably just prudent that Mr. Smith, who's dealing with this matter behind the scenes, is able to have those conversations with Kiwi Rail and their insurer separately, rather than being canvassed in a public meeting. Councillor.
So have...
through the chair. So Mr. Allen's responded.
Yeah.
Did you hear that, his response? He's working through that.
Yeah, okay, I'll let it go for the
Thank
moment.
you. Okay, and the only one from me is, and I'm very comfortable with broadening the representation on both business associations to give other ward members an opportunity to be engaged. And that's a conversation that I'm happy to have with councillors. To me, at the moment with our CBDs, it's all hands to the pump. And so, but in the meantime, we have got 2 ward councillors, but if there is anybody that feels as though they wish to be part of the associations, please come and see me. Okay, so that concludes items under action. We have a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Travis, seconded Councillor Lawson. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Now we have recommendations to exclude the public, and could I ask the Chief Executive to talk about those 2 items in public and why they would be in the PX.
Yes, the matters that are proposed to go into publicly excluded are largely on the grounds of commercial, for commercial matters, commercial in confidence.